we have 80% of the students passing.
It's got to work for 24 systems.
We're at a kind of a precipice. Where do we want to go?
The board soon must decide. Stick with the plan to pass high school assessments, build a bridge for those having trouble, or consider other options with a deadline closing in.
The natural inclination of folks when faced with these kind of daunting prospects is to sit back and say, well, let's kind of ride this thing out, let's see where it goes. One could do that, but what it guarantees is what we already have will just continue.
Wrestling the achievement gap, gender differences, race, and special groups, all charted and championed by Maryland and No Child Left Behind, the board agreed years ago to require students pass the high school assessments to graduate.
First, we're going to look at the number of students who have passed the Algebra High School assessment to date.
The results broke a number of ways for the critical class of '09. They reveal at least 3 key points. Most students pass. Some, largely subgroups, need help to pass, and making passing mandatory produces a better outcome.
We actually expect the number of our graduates to grow.
All of this prompted a wide-ranging debate.
There clearly is a significant difference among races. What has been done to drill down to discover why the differences exist?
We have been focused on sharing intervention programs and plans, learning from each other across the districts. Some of the most promising are coming from the districts where they have a data management system that they are looking at individual students very frequently and very early.
We've had some discussion here about interventions. Do we have an overview? Is there information that we've provided to board members on what interventions are being done by school system, by subgroups?
One of the, I think, disadvantages for you, and we can provide it, is that you were not on the board at the time the board approved the master plans for each of the systems. It is a requirement of the system in the master planning process to do this kind of individual analysis. We can compile that for you.
I would greatly appreciate that.
There's a difference between having the master plan and actually implementing it as you said you would. And that's where we have to do our monitoring. And and as Dr. Grasmick has mentioned, if it doesn't come to fruition, we want to know why and how we can do that.
We probably need to do more research of another kind, which looks at how it is that some students do succeed. The majority of students succeed in the black community and the Hispanic community.
We do that constantly. We do it through the Maryland Association of Student Councils. We do it through our school visits, and there are some recurring themes.
Why would 7,000 students be juniors and not yet have taken a test?
I do know that there are many, many issues. There are students who come in not speaking English, and the school systems will put them in their English courses first to make sure that when they do get the content, they actually are able to get the content.
Students with disabilities will be part of that later taker group because they are taking essentially usually a 2-semester preparatory course.
Board member Hank Buda presented the Gordian knot that has become the HSAs.
We say in the task force report that not all students will be able to pass all of the tests, even with a wide range of options. But then, 13 pages later, we say, passing scores were intentionally set at a level achievable for all students.
So, the State Department suggests what it calls a bridge plan.
We have devised this bridge plan
to help students who may demonstrate knowledge but simply not test well.
I'd also like to say that I had a special desire to interact with superintendents of large systems that would in fact potentially have the most diversity and the most requirement for using a bridge plan.
The bridge plan criteria have yet to be finalized. In a nutshell, educators hope they will help those who have twice failed to achieve a minimum score on 1 or more tests. To qualify, students will have tried other remediation routes. Factors such as attendance and grade point average also will be taken into consideration. More discussion.
Creating a profile or putting this into place, who's the we? Is this the local school system, the local school?
We will set the framework for this. It will then be the system's responsibility.
Local systems would devise these custom plans.
That may be okay if the standards are kept up, but I think it's going to lead inevitably to some doubt on the part of some in the public.
I appreciate your comments, and as we had our 2-year task force, we had similar comments regarding this. These were the options. To have a plan like this, which is very much like the Massachusetts plan, to give a differentiated diploma, which this state has rejected over and over again, to give a waiver and say you don't have to do anything.
You know, we can discuss the needs for testing and how fair it is for across the board, but if we don't find ways to put teeth into the instruction that our teachers are giving in the classroom, we're never going to be able to increase the rigor. If we don't increase the rigor, we're going to have less prepared students and less prepared adults in this country.
And so went the discussion. Mandatory passing is tough medicine.
And basically what I've seen that the HSAs have done, they have pulled back the veil and said, this is what's really going on. And it's a tough pill for us to swallow as a state. And now the question is, what do we do about it? Well, there are no easy answers to what we do about it.
Deputy Superintendent Skip Sanders told a story that summed up the effort.
When I taught, going on 40 years ago, my first class was labeled X1 in a school that started its designations with B. They'd been together since the 7th grade. They were in the 11th grade. Many of them had, in the 11th grade, reading levels at around the 5th grade. No one paid much attention to them because Sparrows Point was open and it would employ all of them. When I assumed this position around 94, I took on a mentoring assignment for myself at a high school in the metropolitan area. I was astonished to see what I would consider no significant progress in what was happening for the X1s of the world. For the first time in my career, I'm beginning to see progress, but I think it's because the spotlight is on these students, and I believe that schools and systems feel they've got to measure up to the standard.